Um, so when we go live, I'll introduce you all. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Filmmaker Q&A for Shorts Block 1 of Portland Horror Film Festival 2022. Thank you all for joining us. Shorts Block 1 actually premiered in the theater live last night. So thank you, John Skip from Doppelbanger, Hannah Mae Cumming from Baby Fever, Emma Cogan also from Baby Fever, and Josh Todaro from Button Man. Thank you so much for joining us. And Josh,
thank you for having us.
Australia.
Yeah, it's very early here. So forgive me if I sound tired or I'm rubbing my eyes a lot, but I'll try my best.
Something that strikes me just looking at all of you right here is that your films are all pretty different subgenres of horror. Button Man is the going camping in a, with some supernatural elements, with the danger of the outdoors type of film. Emma and Hannah's film Baby Fever is this nice retro 70s vibe, with a very pro-life or pro-choice message. Like, what is the word?
Hopefully not pro-life.
To it while using all of the trappings of some of these classic 70s horror films to great effect. And then John, your film is just a fun karaoke fest of different characters, a parade of different characters, and a surprise visitor at the end.
Yep.
For each of you, I'd like to ask, like, what your influences of horror films are that you brought to your particular film. Start with John.
That's so interesting because this particular film, with its emphasis on music and so forth, I feel like, with Doppelbanger, the biggest influences were Hedwig and the Angry Inch, Pink Floyd, The Wall, and Phantom of the Paradise. So those would all be horror movies on one level and a whole lot of other weird shit on another level, which is pretty much how Doppelbanger works out.
All right. Excellent. Hannah Mae and Emma, either one or both of you, how about you guys?
Yeah, well, Baby Fever is definitely our love letter to 70s horror. So I'm glad you picked up on that. And, reproductive horror and pregnancy horror was really big in the 70s because of Roe v. Wade. So it just kind of worked out that way. And Emma and I love 70s horror. It's our favorite subgenre. So I would say, like, The Brood, Cronenberg's The Brood was a big inspiration for us. Rosemary's Baby, Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2. That's like one of our favorite movies.
Yeah.
And what else? We've got like some Carrie in there, of course, because it's a prom horror movie, which is also 70s. What else? Heather is supposed to be like a teen, fun, witty teen movie as well. So that's a little bit 80s, but
you definitely, I think Cronenberg and De Palma, their influence definitely was felt in our process. We love them both. Also, shout out to Phantom of the Paradise, one of my favorite films, and really informs a lot of, like, when we're going with like art direction and when we're approaching that. I think about that film a lot with like every film, because it's so it captures a really interesting part of the 70s.
Yes.
And I think that's a great one. So definitely that film as well. Definitely a lot of just like the era of kind of like the way that the 70s approached body horror was probably our biggest like general inspiration for sure.
Yeah. And are you guys fans of Night of the Creeps?
Oh
my gosh.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Funny story, actually. I've never seen Night of the Creeps. I went to Movie Madness 2 days ago, found it randomly on the rack, was like, oh wow, yeah, we'll get this. Never really heard of it. And then a bunch of people told me that Baby Fever was very similar to Night of the Creeps last night. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna
So we
watch
watched it last night.
We put it on last
after.
night.
It's super fun, isn't it?
Really fun, really fun.
I gotta say, while we're on this subject, I was feeling a little Frank Henenlotter too, and that was not a bad
oh my
thing.
gosh.
Oh my gosh.
I can't
of
believe
course.
I forgot that. Brain Damage is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
Yes, Brain Damage, Frankenhooker. We were both wearing Frankenhooker shirts on set. I can't believe we forgot about this.
I just knew it. I could feel it.
Oh my
There was
gosh.
Henenlotter in my bones as I watched it.
Thank you.
We were just sad that Trip Jr. didn't have like a little song, just like Aylmer.
Yeah, we love Aylmer. That's our little guy.
That.
And Josh, how about you? What influences of horror films did you bring to Button Man?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, obviously being in that camping horror genre, there's a subgenre. There's obviously like Blair Witch and The Ritual that I couldn't really ignore, with the way they sort of create the tone of the actual landscape itself almost being a character.
Sure.
Which, yeah, it's one reason why we sort of chose this story, was we felt it'd be very kind of cheap to make like the Australian bush feel creepy, because it just kind of does when you go there anyway. So
Yeah.
we just had to try capture that on film a little bit. And then obviously being an Australian horror, people will most likely make the connection to Wolf Creek, Greg McLean's Wolf Creek, which is, yeah, an incredible film, and it really set the bar for like how like making international viewers sort of terrified of the Australian bush. But really, like Wolf Creek wasn't that big of an influence on this film in particular, although there are similarities. I was more looking towards like John Carpenter's original Halloween from 78, just in the way that Michael Myers is kind of this like presence that just sort of stalks but doesn't really do much for most of the time. It's sort of like the less he does, the scarier he is, and the more like your imagination can fill in the blanks. So that's kind of why Button Man doesn't really like do anything, because I kind of felt like the less he does, the scarier it is, because that's sort of like it is loosely inspired by like some true events and some eyewitness accounts and stuff. And a lot of these eyewitness accounts basically say, you know, like I went camping and in the middle of the night I was approached by this mysterious man, and you know, like there was an interaction but nothing really happened, but it's safe to say I'll never go camping again and stuff. And it's like
Okay.
I just found that very interesting, that people were like, you know, maybe having these encounters and nothing was really happening, yet they were still so terrified and they would probably never go camping again. And so, yeah, I just sort of tried to put my head in that space of like, yeah, like what would I do? And yeah, so once I realized that he doesn't, like the less he does, sort of the scarier he is, that's what reminded me of Michael Myers in the original Halloween. So that was a big influence.
Nice. And how did you decide to make it about two sisters or two women?
Yeah, that was really interesting as well. I originally wrote the script gender neutral, with no like names or any character really attached to or no like sort of backstory attached to either of the characters. It was just camper number one, camper number two, and one of them was the sort of overly confident, you know, oh, I've been camping a million times, I know exactly what I'm doing, blah blah blah, but it's like everything they're doing is wrong. And then the other one is the really sort of paranoid one, always thinks they're lost, always thinks like every crack they hear is like a murderer, and so I just wanted those two characters because they're almost like two halves of my brain when I go camping. It's like one of me wants to be the really confident, experienced one, and the other one is actually like, what was that? Am I lost? What am I doing? So I just kind of like split my thoughts on the situation down the middle, put them into two characters, and then it was sort of the casting that dictated what the relationship was going to be. So I was sort of writing this project to work with one of my friends, Melissa Clare, who played Lydia in the film. I couldn't remember which one. She played Lydia in the film. And so I cast her first, and then I was like, which one do you want to play? And she's like, ooh, I'm really leaning towards Camper 2. That'd be great. I'm like, sweet, that's done. And then I just sort of asked her, I was like reading it, did you sort of like feel a character at all? Or did you sort of, was there a relationship there that you like felt or anything? And she's like, yeah, for some reason I felt like I was reading sisters. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, cool, because I know another really great actor that I want to work with, Stephanie Panozzo. So yeah, I called her up straight away after, and that was kind of that. And so then once we knew they were sisters, kind of rewrote a bit of the dialogue, and sort of added in the death of the mother as like a reason that they're going out there and stuff like that. So yeah, it was more like the casting informed the character, which I thought was a really fun experiment, like just writing gender neutral roles, because then I didn't like lean into certain tropes of like, if I knew one of them was going to be a boyfriend, then it's kind of like, you do the cocky boyfriend who's tough and stuff, and I just like didn't really want to go down that path. So I'm kind of glad it ended up the way it did.
There you go.
That's a really interesting way of approaching it, because then your actors must have, it seems like it allows your actors to really connect with the character as well.
Yeah,
Great.
definitely. Yeah, because it was kind of surprising the way they read it and then kind of like visualized a character and visualized sort of a backstory and whatever. So yeah, it was a fun experiment. If it didn't work out and they were like, I don't get it at all, this is terrible, I'm not getting anything from this, I'd be like, all right, I'll rewrite something better. But yeah, luckily they just filled in the blanks for me, and it was a lot of fun.
So you said your story is based on kind of true accounts of, or inspired by true accounts of people going camping and encountering this man. How did you turn that Button Man? Because that was a moment of like when she wakes up with the buttons.
Yeah.
Like
so
great.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Well, like, yeah, that's the thing. There is this story, like there's this urban legend in Victoria, where I'm from, that there's this man called the Button Man that is living out there. But it's sort of tricky to explain, because the reason they call him the Button Man is because he like carves these big buttons out of deer antlers. So like he hunts and kills deer and then turns their antlers into buttons and like adorns his jacket in buttons or whatever. So like no one really knows like what the button sort of like why he makes these buttons or whatever. It's just, I guess, like this, craft that he does out there sort of thing. But like when I heard it in my head, I thought it would be really cool if like the buttons are like maybe human bones or something of like people that have, gone missing out there, or stuff like that. So I just sort of like, embellished the story a little bit in my head. And then I thought, kind of he would maybe use these buttons as a bit of like a calling card that he's like, his presence has been there and stuff like that. And because that's what I think the game is a little bit. He wants to make himself known, but also stay hidden and see how long he can sort of stalk and stay hidden for, and then when he wants to be known, that's when he makes himself known, because that's what some of these eyewitness accounts have said, is that like they've been camping for days and they've felt like they've been stalked and followed the whole time, but like each night they woke up, some things of theirs had gone missing, and it had felt like someone had been in their tent and stuff like that. So he sort of like plays this game for a few days, and then when he wants to make himself known, that's when he starts to have a conversation with you. But yeah, whether the real mystery is like whether it's just kind of one guy, or it's just that there's a lot of these, you know, old men that go bush, and yeah, so I don't know, I think people are just having encounters with old people, and they're like, oh, that was the button man, I swear. And that all these stories are just kind of floating around the internet, and I don't really know how many of them are like rooted in any sort of fact, or whether there is just this kind of one guy or not. But yeah, there definitely are people that live out in the bush, and they're total recluse, and yeah, really live off the grid. And it would be very interesting to encounter one of these people. So yeah.
I want a button jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah, just covered in bones. Yeah, it's
That sounds
pretty
really
interesting.
good.
Yeah.
And you know what I really like, man? I really liked with the buttons on the eyes. To me, that was like pennies on a dead man's eyes. That, you know,
yes,
that totally harkened back to that, which I thought was really,
yeah.
That
Someone said that to
part.
me recently, and I was like, "Hey, that's a good idea." I should act like I really knew that that's what I was referencing, because it just, I don't know. Sometimes things just like happen like that, and it's like, yeah, that is a good reference. I'm glad that's in there, because at the time we were like, oh, it kind of looks like she's at a day spa with like cucumbers on her eyes,
Right.
And so we were like filming it, and we're like, oh, this looks bad. But I just kind of knew there was an idea there, and I thought that would be very kind of disturbing to wake up and have someone place something on your face while you've been sleeping is very creepy.
So speaking of urban legends, everyone's heard the story of the prom dumpster baby, and in Baby Fever, Donna has her. Well, it's not a dumpster; it's a whatever that is, that baby. So how, like, there's a lot involved in that scene. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of wormy guys running around. There's a lot of blood spatter. I would like to know how you approached filming all of that.
Good question. It was a big one, wasn't it?
Full rundown, but how was that? A day shooting, or was that multiple days shooting?
3 days, right, for prom, or 2 days for prom?
2.5 days for prom.
Yeah.
And the whole movie took 10 days. We needed 10 days for prom, honestly.
We did it first. That was like the first part of our shoot, which was crazy for us.
Ideal. It's like a location thing. Yeah. So we had, oh God, how many extras? Emma had to costume period accurately, like 25.
We had, yeah, at least, yeah, around there, probably including like the band and stuff. We had about like 20-ish extras that we also had to try and make look like a lot of people, because 20 people sounded like a lot, but when we looked at it, we're like,
oh,
okay, this needs to look like hundreds of kids. So that was a big part of it. Was just making the prom look full when it comes to every element, really. Making it look like a real prom was our biggest task, on top of all the gags.
We you know how like when you have a shot list and you run out of time and you keep bumping your stuff to the next day and the next day, and we ended up having to bump all of the practical effects gags to the half day, which was the Wednesday. And
that just makes sense. I totally get that.
It happens.
And I don't know how we pulled it off. I mean, maybe I don't want to expose this, but some of them are pickups. Like a lot of the worm close-ups are pickups. So our special effects artists built like a replica floor, and then they were moving the worms with magnets and stuff. So luckily, like that stuff could be booted to a later date. But
Yeah.
obviously, all of the like stuff that needed to be on location, we needed to do on that last day, and then clean up as well, and then resets and costume changes if necessary. And
yeah, continuity with blood and stuff I think was a big thing with anything that was going to get blood splatter. Of course, we had to time it really well, and so you know, that came down to costume. It came down to like even just making sure that the set was like tarped when we did like big blood explosions, and knowing that that should probably be our last shot of the day. And I think in a way I'm glad that we ended up doing a lot of the you know, like worm close-ups as a pickup, because we were able to spend a little extra time getting the look really right. And that, yes, exactly. And I feel like that we were able to achieve more of what we wanted and more of what Carlo, our special effects director, wanted, because we were able to spend a little extra time on it and just have like a day dedicated to that, which was really important to us. We wanted the special effects to really shine, especially in the prom.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that last day, there was an energy like amongst the entire crew that was just like, we got to do this. You know, this is like the biggest part of the movie. I know we don't have a lot of time, but like everybody really showed up, and the passion and the love was there. And that's really why we got it done. The blood splatter moment onto Brendy was super nerve-wracking because we had done a bunch of tests and it wasn't really working right, and we couldn't accurately measure the distance, and we were shooting it towards like a white ceiling
that towards the venue,
put it in tarp. And so it was probably the scariest moment of my life. And there's like a BTS video that someone took of like us shooting that moment, and Georgia's screaming. She plays Brendy. She's screaming, and I'm just sobbing. And I'm like, cut. And then everybody just started crying, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
So
I feel like we cried multiple times throughout the prom shoot, usually just like for good reasons, like when we got something and we were just so happy that we got it, like we couldn't believe it.
Yeah. There was a lot of love those days, as stressful as it was, and so I think that you can see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Emma, I wanted to ask you about the costumes, because you mentioned that you had to costume like 20 plus extras.
Yeah.
How do you go about that? Like, did you find all those costumes? Did you make some of them? It's a combination.
Yeah. It was kind of it was a big hunt for sure. This was definitely I mean, the biggest project we've done together for sure, with like that volume of people, because we had extras in the prom. We also had extras in the school, and the roller rink. And we're like, as we're looking at the script, we're like, okay, all right, how are we going to do this? But I feel like I had, you know, since we started talking about Baby Fever really early on, I think we were pretty clear on the vision. I think that like Hannah and I had talked about how many vintage prom dresses we have like amongst us and amongst some of our friends. So we kind of already knew.
It started with the fact that Emma and I wanted to costume a bunch of people in 70s prom dresses.
Yeah. We were like, we want to do something with these. And then it was just like probably
build a story around that.
A 2-month process of kind of trying to find something to pair with that. But yeah, it started with, I think, a clear visual, which was good because Hannah and I really align on stuff like as far as art direction. And so it was really easy to figure out what the look of the film was going to be, for sure. But the hard part was then actually finding the items. This time I was able to have a lot of vintage vendors actually lend some stuff, which was amazing. Especially Kitschy Bitch Vintage. My friend Savannah, she's amazing and loaned us so many like just star pieces that really sold the decade, and otherwise just, you know, because I didn't want it to feel, because you can always go the route of buying stuff that looks like it's from the 70s and just like having a bunch of, you know, striped shirts or button downs or, you know, basic bell bottoms and throw that on extras. But we really wanted it to have a certain kind of charm. And I feel like 1972 is such a strange year stylistically. Like the early 70s are strange. Like the late 70s, you'd be like, it's fun, it's sexy, it's groovy. But like the early 70s are just weird. And I wanted to capture that. I wanted to capture how like strange it was and like, why are you wearing that kind of vibes?
Can I tell you that that's actually the age that I was in those years?
Oh yeah. Were people wearing insane stuff?
No shit, they were. Yeah.
I say ponchos.
So yeah, we just
poncho hunt.
Oh my gosh. The poncho that Donna wears, I like almost cried finding it. It was like, I knew I wanted a poncho for that. We talked about it. We're like, yes, the poncho's perfect. And I literally imagined that exact one. And I saw it on like the first trip I went on thrifting with my costume supervisor, Malia. And we saw it at, it was at House of Vintage, and it was like hanging up on its own, like it was waiting for me. And I was just like, come to mama. But yeah, it was crazy. It was just a lot. It was just a large volume of stuff. I had to get a new like rack for our costumes. So I had a double rack. And yeah, I was just keeping track of everything. I think that the best thing that we did was bring more options than we thought we needed for days with extras, because we didn't have time to do fittings with all the extras, which would be ideal, but just kind of unrealistic. But of course, on our budget, even though that's unrealistic, we have less options for extras if, you know, something were to not fit. And so we just tried our best to get everything possible. And so I tried to get a really good spread of those like unique items, but then also order some more contemporary stuff that you can just find duplicates of. Of course, there's some stuff that needed like duplicates for blood purposes.
I was just gonna say, yeah.
We had vintage pieces that Emma had to find the duplicates of, or close matches.
Yeah, the prom was probably the crazy. The girl Donna and Brendy, their prom dresses were probably the ones that I had the biggest struggle with in pre-production. Originally, I was going to make their dresses, but I think that when we started pre-production, and my arc with pre-production was I kind of entered in with producing, and then once we brought our co-producers on, I was able to kind of focus more on wardrobe. But I think when we started producing it, we were kind of like, oh man, we're really making this movie, and we like didn't realize that we were really making this movie. And I was just like, I don't think it would be worth my time to hand make the dresses, because I feel like it would take up too much time, especially because I would like want to do it really well.
Yeah.
We can't all be Anna Biller.
Yeah, we can't all be Anna Biller.
I want to show really quick. This is Emma with all of the
Oh my God.
That's our office, by the way, which is no longer an office. It's just our closet.
Wow.
With like the costume. It just has like a disco ball in it now. It's just the vomit of the movie. But yeah, it was eventually what we ended up doing was we found really perfect dresses for them that we kind of couldn't let go of. We knew they were the right ones. But one of the reasons I was going to hand make them was because I could hand make a duplicate, because I knew that they were both going to get like rocked. And so that was a big conversation, because we were like, well, we don't want to ruin these nice vintage dresses. But we talked with Carlo for special effects, and we decided to go with blood that does wash out, and we tested it and it was fine. And we were able to save the costumes that didn't have duplicates. It was scary not having duplicates.
It also ended up not mattering though, because we punted all of those gags to the last day, so we had no choice. It was meant to be. If it was a fail, we couldn't reshoot it, you know. So it's like
yeah, but definitely
that was a good part of that.
Absolutely. And I think that part of making it all work was that I had like amazing wardrobe assistants. Emily and my costume supervisor, they basically handled like 95% of extra stuff like on the day of. And they were absolutely amazing. And so I couldn't have done it without them. I think that with this set in general, we were just like, we want to have as much help as possible to make it. We knew that when we wanted to make an ambitious project, we were like, we want to bring as many people on as possible that want to do it with us, to make it work, because I think that without that collaboration, it wouldn't have worked.
Very nice. Really interesting. Like it's just it all came out really fantastically, and the story itself is just so unfortunately timely right now with the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And yeah, it's
Devastating.
very profound.
Thank you. Yeah, we started writing it 3 years ago just because we were like processing our fears and anxieties around like the future of Roe v. Wade and abortion access. And the fact that this happened last week, it was kind of crazy.
Yeah, kind of feels out of this
Sadly
world in a
timely.
bad way. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring the room
Yeah,
down.
no. I mean, we were really nervous also about the screening last night just because it's so fresh and it's so raw. But yeah, I'm happy that it hit the right way.
Everybody needed those laughs. I think that's what it came down to. Because the room fucking lost it, man. The room was so into it. It was really amazing to watch.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And it's really people who try to say that horror shouldn't be political, like aren't paying attention, because it has always been social and political. And that's kind of how I think we work out our demons, is through fictionalized portrayals of real life things, but with ridiculous or gross or extreme or funny elements to kind of make it go down a little easier while still like having a message to deliver.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's the whole point.
I know that
those are the best horror films.
Yeah, I know that with that particular scene, I think we're all talking about, we wanted that one to feel really different from the rest of the film and like pull you out of the fact that you're watching like a campy horror movie for a little bit and throw you into reality. And then like it's all shot handheld, so it's like we wanted it to feel really real and raw, and like you're with her there, and then we have that kind of relief in the second half of the scene, and then it kind of throws you back into the horror movie. So I'm glad that came across.
It really worked.
Thank you.
John, let's talk about Doppelbanger. And and John lives here also as a Portland filmmaker, and I recognize a lot of people that we know from various avenues of Eraserhead Press and some other writers and other filmmakers. And I recognize
it was crawling with bizarros.
Crawling with bizarros. Like I saw Rose O'Keefe in there, and Cody Goodfellow was the cowboy, Rusty the cowboy.
Cowboy Rusty.
And Kayla Dixon from Witch Mountain was the amazing Belle in your film. How did you go about gathering all these people? Did you just kind of put a call out and they all really signed up?
Well, actually, what happened was, I mean, Belle was a character from the feature, and is like one of the two main characters of the feature. So casting her was extremely important. And when
so back up a little bit. So Doppelganger, for the audience watching at home, Doppelbanger is a short treatment of a feature that you have planned or that you had written.
Yes, Doppelbanger is the feature that I would like to make the most right now. Although, as you can see on the walls, I'm making the next one. But it was basically Doppelbanger is a story about our best and worst impulses in a romantic setting, and basically it's about a sweet, lonely dude with an absolutely terrifying, monstrous, murderous, demonic doppelganger who meets this very dangerous woman with the world's nicest doppelganger. So it is about these like kind of wars between our best and worst impulses in ourselves. And then when I wrote the entire script for the feature, I wrote all 36 pieces of music. I went to insane lengths to design this thing. And then COVID hit, and financing fell through, and everything else fell through. I was going to shoot it in Detroit. Then as things unfolded, I wound up meeting more film people here in Portland. Nathan Carson, the drummer of Witch Mountain, introduced me to Kayla, and it was like, oh, you are her. I knew her voice is just so phenomenal. I think the only Black female doom metal singer on the scene, and yeah, internationally known and just unbelievable. But I knew that with a voice like that she could sing anything. And then it turned out that she has a background in musical theater, and so I wrote her like blues to sing, right? Um, and with, you know, speaking of costumes, our designer, we gave her a Billie Holiday sort of look, with the flower and the pulled back hair and so forth, in her non-demonic state, in her non-doppelbanging state. uh, and Yeah, okay, so then when it came time, uh, when a producer came to me drinking beer on my porch and said, you know, I have some money, would you like to make a short? And I'm like, well, yes, because money is the hardest thing always. Then it was like, okay, we're setting this in the karaoke bar. My friend Linda and I found the Baby Ketten Club, where incidentally I was until 5 this fucking morning. So the fact that I'm here talking with you, yeah. Afterwards, we went to Moon and Sixpence, and then we went to the karaoke bar and sang until like 4:30 in the morning, which is fucking stupid, but it was really
So
fun.
good.
A nice arc of completion. So yeah, then when we were getting ready to shoot the thing, and I had the script drafted the way I want it. I always think of Cody Goodfellow. Cody Goodfellow is just an amazing force of nature, and I had already written the song "Don't Fight the Civil War Again, My Friend," and I was like, let's have Cody, Johnny Cash this shit up a little bit. But then it was like, okay, now I need to do a karaoke casting call for Portland and see who could actually deliver the qualities that karaoke has, which is some people sing very, very well. Some people are not good at all. And sometimes they're great at being not good at all. And sometimes it's just, you know, like a nails on chalkboard kind of experience. But you kind of have the gamut, because that reveals the humanity of the place. And so I just put out the call. Obviously, it's easier to cast your friends, and Danger Slater, very photogenic, just a great character. He's a bizarro writer who does not do readings. He just does insane performances, you know, and so I knew he was a natural. Sam, who sings the line, "Don't leave, Diana, I bought you a beer," worked at Portland Music Company, where I went in to ask Matt, the manager of the place, do you have a microphone that doesn't work, that I can get blood all over as I jam down somebody's throat and kill them with it? And Sam, who was working there, comes walking up to the back, from the back, goes, "For a horror movie?" I said, "Yes." She says, "What's it called?" I said, "Doppelbanger." And she went like, and then I knew that she had to be in the movie. It turns out that she's a punk rock keyboardist and singer. And her boyfriend is Zach, who wrote the music for Baby Fever.
I love them both very much.
Yeah,
they're some of my best friends.
They're fantastic people. And yeah, so I really love how we're pre-familyed. This is so nice. But yeah, so just pulling together my freak friends. You always want to make movies with your freak friends. I mean, well, let's make a fucking movie. So that all just came very, very naturally. And then, you know, finding the actual club and going, oh, this is the space, and then just charting every inch of it and going, and hey, we'll use this like this, and we'll put one little fill light right there so it'll be right on her face, and just nailing all the details down with the kind of mad scientist specificity that I kind of gravitate towards this shit for in the first place. It was just super fun, and then finding the other members of the cast, Brandy and Randy. I was going to use an LA Alyssa Dowling, a great LA actor who I worked with on many things, but we just couldn't logistically fly her in, so it was time to find some Portland peeps. And Vincent, our line producer, had just the ticket that hooked me up. Having a great line producer counts for a lot, especially when you don't know everybody in town. All of a sudden, you get to know everybody in town. But I digress.
That's okay. You basically answered all the other questions I had for you. So
Great.
I'm curious if any of you, Josh, Emma, and Hannah, and John, do you guys do karaoke on your own? And if so, what is your go-to song?
I sang nothing but Bowie last night. I sang a shitload of Bowie.
Starman is mine. So
Wow.
Starman.
Oh,
Classic.
I did Ashes to Ashes, It's No Game, Fame, and one other one I can't remember.
Hell yeah. I like to make my mullet look kind of like Ziggy Stardust and then do,
Very nice.
do some Bowie.
I got to do lower range Bowie. The younger Bowie's voice is not pitched. I don't know if that happens as you get older or what, but it just seemed,
Different Bowies across time. Like you can do it like all kinds of ways.
Half the fun is like butchering it, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm a big Cher fan, so I'm always gonna go with my Cher impression of Believe. But if I want to like impress, I'll do Patsy Cline.
Ooh.
If I want to feel a little silly, I'm gonna do Cher.
What Patsy Cline do you do? I'm a Patsy Cline freak.
Oh my God, me too. I literally have like a shrine of her in my room. Man, they're all great. Back in Baby's Arms, Crazy,
right.
Strange. Yeah. Strange was my first favorite.
Ooh.
So that's a classic. I like to bust them all out. Any Cher, Patsy Cline, you can sign me up. If I'm feeling a little crazy, maybe I'll do the Cramps. Like if I'm feeling like I want to stomp around.
Nice.
Yeah.
How about you, Josh? Is there karaoke in Australia?
It's not massive here, but yeah, there is, and some people are quite fond of it. My wife is a really talented singer, so she just like, yeah, it's like I can't even compete, so I just don't even bother because it just like makes me sound even worse than I already am. But I have to just go for like Metallica or Creed or something to like, like those kind of those male vocals that like you're putting on an impersonation and it's like it's just whatever. Like just try sound like a dude as much as I can, and that's like that's the only thing my voice can do. I'm very tone deaf, so yeah, I wish I could sing, but I can't.
That's the best part of karaoke is being a little tone deaf.
Yeah, that's what people say, but then it's like when you're actually doing it,
doesn't feel
like
great, but
that's what people who can sing say. They're like, oh, it's fun. You can't sing. Like we all love it. It's like, nah, I get that. Not for me. But yeah. It is fun though. You have to be very drunk though to like really get me to do it, sort of thing. I have to be very drunk. Yeah,
it does help.
Well, next time you come to Portland, we'll
let's do it.
You're getting drunk and take you out to Baby Ketten.
Yeah, perfect. Sounds great.
I was just getting stoned in the parking lot. Okay.
What?
Yeah.
I was just getting stoned in the parking lot. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, excellent. We should wrap up because we have more Q&As to do today. But I want to thank you all for being here and being here so early. And Josh, I don't even know what time it is there for you. Is it crazy?
5 a.m.
5 a.m. Oh my goodness.
I'm going to go back to sleep.
Thank you so much for waking up.
No worries.
Really appreciate it.
No worries. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us and thanks for hosting us last night.
Right.
Yeah.
I wish I could have been there in person.
Before we go, I would like everyone to let everyone know where they can find you on social media and find your film and more news about it. Josh, where can they find you and where can they find Button Man?
Yeah, just Instagram, mostly. My name, Josh_Tadaro, and Button Man Film. And yeah, the trailer's out on YouTube, and yeah, we're hoping to find it a home on a streaming service or something fairly soon. It'll have an online home at some point, but yeah, just a couple more film festivals to do and then release it on the world.
There you go.
So yeah.
Emma, where can people find about your projects and what's going on with you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Matzo Emma, and then you can follow us, Monstrous Femme, at Monstrous Femme Films on Instagram, and then we're on Twitter at monstrous_femme, and that's where we're going to be posting all of our updates about Baby Fever and our upcoming films as well.
Very cool.
Hannah, where do people find you?
So obviously Emma and I share Monstrous Femme, so you can find like our shared stuff there. And then my personal Instagram is Hannah May Films, and my Twitter is Hannah May Film. And was our world premiere, so this is the start of our festival run. So hopefully we've got a long one ahead of us, and then we can eventually find a home on a streaming service at some point. But yeah.
Awesome. John Skip, where do people find out about Doppelbanger and John Skip's films?
Well, hilariously, yeah, I am at Instagram and Twitter as your pal Skip, because that's how I sign all of my correspondence. But I'm barely ever there, so if people contact me there, maybe I'll ever show up. I don't know. But I'm all over the Facebook because I'm old. I don't know. And I'm easily found there as myself, John Skip. And Doppelbanger, the trailer is up. I've been doing press. I've been writing books for like 40 some years. I released my last book at the end of last year called Don't Push the Button. And I released 2 albums of music as companion pieces, The Antidote to Fear and Cry Me a Rainbow. And so I've been putting out the 2 albums, the book, and the film as sort of a party pack to get people to have fun. And so, yeah, the trailer's available. We've got like 12 more festivals we're looking at. And meanwhile, yeah, just trying to get the feature made and the other features made. So that's where it is right now.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, everybody. If you haven't already seen Shorts Blog 1, it is still streaming at portlandhorror.eventive.org. And that is available through Wednesday, July 6th. We have more stuff coming up tonight in the theater if you happen to be watching this live. Tonight, Thursday at the Hollywood Theater starting at 7 o'clock and continuing throughout the weekend. So hope to see your faces at some point, and don't forget to hop on Discord and chat with people there, and we'll see you all over the internet.
It's a very well curated program.
Thank you.
I just want to tell you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us, Gwen.
Thank you.
Gwen.
You killed it. Amazing.
Bye.
Bye.